Money flow like a river, property drinks no quiver.
The question is, what is your number one responsibility as a business owner, as a property investor? And do you want to see a real life example? Let's have a look. Now, the answer to that question is very simple, but also very complex to be achieved. Your responsibility number one as a business owner, as a property investor, is to extract the maximum value possible from each of your assets. Be it a business, be it a property investment, which is also a business. But the complexity of it is the skills that you need to have to achieve just that, to extract maximum value from each asset. And this is the thing. To extract that maximum value, you need to know, you need to be able to recognize value and potential. And to do just that, you need to have the right knowledge. And this is the challenge, that knowledge comes with 4 pillars. So you need to master these 4 pillars to understand and recognize value and potential in a property. The number one is your exit or goal with your investments, with your property. So depending on what you are looking to do, then there's going to be some value added. Maybe a little, maybe a lot. But as a business owner, you need to understand which strategies will give you maximum value so you can achieve your goal. The second pillar for understanding value and potential is your customers. If it's a property business, regardless, you have customers, those are tenants, and therefore you need to understand what they want and especially what you're trying to do, who you're working for, who are going to be your tenants, what's their profile, what's their budget, what they like the most or what they're looking for to rent, either be it a room, be it a office, be it a single property. You need to understand what you are doing for them. And this video today, I'll show you an example of how we just do that. The third pillar to recognize that value and potential is the local regulations. What are the restrictions in every single street, every single neighborhood, every postcode, because it can change. And with respect to the property deals that you find, with the property or investment opportunities that you are offered, because in UK, basically, and I'm not exaggerating, if you have 2 houses opposite on the same street, one of them could be used for certain strategies and the other one couldn't. And if you do the wrong property in the wrong area of town, then you are going to suffer financial losses, no doubt about it. And the fourth pillar is your financial models. You need to understand, you need to be able to predict financially the whole process from beginning to end of each investment that you're trying to do, so you know the risks. Because in business, apart from maximizing value, you need to minimize risk. And only by having the right knowledge, you can do that. And still like that, there is risk. There are risks like, for example, builders not doing the job that you pay them for and many other things that could happen. But at least the common and normal risks you can try and you should decrease as much as possible. And by getting the right knowledge, that's something that you actually can do. Now, let's say you master those 4 pillars. You have that knowledge and at least you feel comfortable with that. Value and potential within a property at practical level, we will always have certain limits. So there is as much as you can achieve for that property. And that's what I'm talking about, maximizing that value, because it's not infinite and you need to know how to maximize it. Now, to do just that, there are 6 levels that you need to think in order to get the success that you require for that property, for that investment. The first one is your budget. Even if you have unlimited budget, the investment still needs to work. So it's not like you pour infinite amounts of money into a project and then you're going to get infinite amounts of return. It doesn't work like that. And in fact, with a limited budget and a good strategy, you could get what is known as an infinite return on your investment. That's possible. Rare, but it's possible. The second level that you need to think about is the amount of space in the property. Normally, the ideal property you want to get is a property with a lot of space available for conversion with the lowest possible price. there is always a balance to achieve. And the more you want to get to that ideal ratio, the more difficult it's going to be to get that property, the more you're going to compete for it. And therefore, it's not easy at all, but that's the ideal level that you want to achieve. The next level is local planning regulations. Depending on the council that you are, depending on how they change the national regulations to modify to their local environment, which they all do, those changes become restrictions for you, become limits for what you can do with that property, the type of use that you can give to that property, and therefore the value that you can achieve after conversion. The fourth level is your knowledge of the strategies. Now, if you look at an investor globally, looking at global assets, not just UK existing assets, and the ideal investor should be able to look, scan the market and say, these 5 type of assets will give me these 5 type of returns, and therefore I'm going to put money in one of the or 3. That's what investors should do. At a lower level, at a more local level in terms of property investment, what you as an investor should be able to do is to say, okay, I have these strategies to invest in property, renting by room, service accommodation, rent to rent, flips, everything that's available. And my rate of return or return on investment on each of these assets is around this one. Therefore, I'm going to go with certain strategy because either is the best and I'm maximizing, or I want to diversify. You can maximize value by decreasing the risk relative to that strategy, but that risk might be different and probably is different when you use different strategies. For example, if you are going to create an asset to rent by rooms, the risk is a lot higher than creating an asset for a single let. The fifth level that you need to achieve or think around is your team skills. A professional team, a good team that has experience in property development, refurbishment, investing, will probably, definitely outwin a beginner's team. Somebody who's doing it once or twice. The more you do this, the more you know about the strategies to maximize that value, how to plan, how to configure a property, locations, spaces, contacts, everything. The better your team is, the more value you're going to be able to achieve. Because, and I've seen this many times, some teams will not have the experience or the knowledge to, for example, see that a property can be used for certain strategy, and other teams with limited knowledge will disregard that asset when actually it's perfectly possible to achieve the value that the most experienced team has identified. And this is very common. The reason for that is very simple. The regulations in the UK are so complex because, as I just mentioned before, there are national regulations which are changed by each council at local level. That complicates an already very complicated regulatory framework, and therefore experience cannot be replaced with reading books or just watching videos. You need to be on the ground, learning, sometimes making mistakes and learning from those. And the level 6 to achieve maximum value, which actually limits that value, is this market itself. If you see the valuations that you get in London, they are very different than the ones that you get up north. And I'm not talking about the price as such, but the returns, the rates of return are very different. And that's because different areas, different localities will pay different rent. Property values can change from street to street, and that actually happens even in small towns. And therefore, all those market constraints will effectively create a limit to that value. And you can even add, when we talk about the market, for example, another one that can limit that value is actually the valuators, the ones that the banks hire to go and valuate your house and tell you or tell them what the price they should lend on. And this is very common. We've had issues where valuators, they just downvalue the property quite a lot for no reason, apart from the fact that they are liable for the number that they tell the banks, and therefore they won't move from it. And that's a very difficult place to be. That's where thinking about all these 6 levels I just mentioned will help you maximize the value that you achieve from your investment, all navigating all these limits I just mentioned. Now, we just discussed why, as an investor, you need to maximize value and how you need to learn about these 4 pillars to actually recognize that value before you can maximize it, and also 6 different levels to which you need to think about to improve underutilized assets. And now I want to show you a real example of something we are doing at the moment, we are planning to do to increase the value of an asset we have which is underutilized. Let's have a look. Now, on the screen, I want to show you a property as we bought it for the first time. Let me just walk you through it. Then I'll show you how we refurbished that property about 4 years ago. And then I will show you how we are going to work to refurbish it again, and the reasons why we're doing it this way, and how we are going to increase and maximize the value of this underutilized asset. This is a real case. This is a real asset, and therefore is very important for you to pay attention. So now, if you see my screen right here, this is a property that we bought for about £110,000 5 years ago. And then it took about 6 to 8 months to refurbish. But let's start from the beginning, how this property actually was bought. So we had a living room here, we had a bedroom on this property, we had a kitchen. That's how the property was. Then there is a basement, which I'll show you in a second. But then on the first floor, there's a small bedroom here, another bedroom there, another bedroom here, another bedroom there, and a bathroom here. And then on the second floor, there is a bedroom here and another bedroom there. That's how we bought the property. And actually, this is the basement here. So you come down the stairs and this is the basement. Now, the way we converted this property, and this is an important point, at the time we bought it, we only had around £60,000 to refurbish this property. So we didn't have enough cash to do everything we needed to do. And this is very common that I see with different investors. They don't have enough cash to go and do a full refurbishment or a full value extraction of the property. Even they might go for a buy-to-let, and then in the future they might convert it into a room rental. But the important part of this is that you can control the asset in the long term and then do any more changes to it. Now, of course, it's not efficient. It's not efficient at all. And ideally, you would have all the money to do this at once. But the reality is that property investment is very, very capital intensive. And sometimes you get to this. Now, the other very important part of this is that you might buy a property investment which is already running. And then you buy an investment which you're not buying a completely destroyed property that you will refurbish and then rent. You might start in the middle where that property is already running with a lot of potential to be able to extract once you take care of it. And this would be an example. If you were to buy this property from us, then you would have, or you would be able to do what we are going to discuss shortly to increase the value of that property. That's a very good example. But let's see, before we go there, let's see the first stage of this refurbishment. So that's how we bought the property. And then let's have a look what we did to the property. So effectively, in the property here, we created a living room. Then we created a bedroom. Then the double kitchen was here. Then we expanded this room a little bit here to make sure we comply with regulations. Then we made this room here. We took a little bit of this room here and reduced to make a bathroom, a communal bathroom here. This room was pretty much as it is. And then this bathroom here basically was refurbished without doing much to it. And then upstairs, what we basically did is took a little bit of this room and then created a communal bathroom here. and this one, it was left as it was, basically another room here, and that would go with this one here. And with those arrangements, at the time of getting this property, as I said, it was bought for £110,000, and then we used about £60,000 to do the refurbishment and the conversion. Now, this property is been running, it's been producing about £3,000 per month, and it's been running like that for about 4 years. Now, we understand and we know that definitely there is more potential to extract from this property. So we can actually achieve about £4,000 per month, or at least a little bit more. Now, that's not the only increase that we're going to achieve in this modification. The property was valued at the time with the rent that we achieved about £180,000. Now, with the increase we are going to achieve with the new modifications, we believe we are going to get about £250,000 to £300,000 valuation. And that is to show that you can increase value at two different levels in property, either cash flow or capital gains. But you can only do that by knowing all the pillars and thinking about the different levels that we discussed at the beginning in the video. Let's have a look what we are planning to increase the income from this property from £3,000 to £4,000 per month at least. Now, if you look at the same property, what we are going to do is to turn that living room into studio, where we have a bathroom here. This section here, we have a little bit of a station here, cooking station, and then the rest. So this is one of the rooms. Then the other room that you saw next to the kitchen, we will do around the same. It's got a bathroom, cooking station there, and it will have all the other amenities that it needs to have. Now, kitchen basically remains the same. We don't change anything. The living room goes to be inside the basement, which has got a window, so that's perfectly fine. Then in the second room, in the first floor, we turn the small room into a bathroom and then create a studio here. Then in this room here, we set the existing bathroom to belong only to this room. And then this room becomes ensuite to use only that bathroom. That's effectively what happens there. And in the rooms upstairs, what we basically do is, again, we are going to have an ensuite here for this property and for this room, which was only a room before. And then we have an ensuite for this room as well, with a cooking station and the rest of the things being done. So effectively, is a second refurbishment apart from the first one. Again, this is not the most efficient way to refurbish a property, but when you have serious constraints of budget, that's something that you can plan and do. Now, again, as I said before, if you're buying already operating property, which is already rented, you could buy it, have it rented, save that money until you can do the next refurbishment, which is something you can only do if you recognize the value at the very beginning before buying the property, because space is something that you cannot create out of the blue. Maybe you can create and transform the loft or transform a basement if you have it, but pretty much the space that you buy in a property is pretty much set, and it depends on you and your team how you optimize that space to do with regulations and to do with your local knowledge of the market as to how you are going to maximize that value, decreasing risk, etc. So hopefully that gives you a very good example of how to maximize value, how to recognize value, how to decrease risk, and how to think at different levels at the same time for you to achieve just that. If you have any properties in Liverpool or Wirral that you want managed, our agency can do it for you. If you want to achieve these sort of investments from the ground up, that's also something we can help you. So just send us an email to info@propertycashflow.co.uk or WhatsApp 0411904124. My name is Noel Cardona, and this is propertycashflow.co.uk. Bye-bye. See you in the next one.